On September 21st, 2018, sad news was released related to Telltale Games. They announced that they would start closing a majority of their studio. They planned on keeping a few employees on to fulfill prior commitments, but the future for their games and sequels didn't look so bright. Effectively, Telltale would not be making any more games. Telltale has been around for years, focusing on making adventure and narratively driven game experiences. I have experienced many of their games, with my first being when they released the first season of The Walking Dead. I wanted to make this video as a means to say a personal goodbye to this studio and discuss some of their games that I really enjoyed. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a goodbye to Telltale Games. As I said before, the first season of The Walking Dead was my first experience with Telltale. I was hooked from the first episode. As a fan of the show, I was excited to try out the game. What grounded the narrative was the relationship between Lee and Clementine. Lee had committed a crime before the zombie outbreak, but then once it happened, he ran into Clementine. He took it upon himself to look after her and care for her. Clementine had lost her parents, and Lee effectively became her father figure and protector throughout the first season. Clementine was sweet and innocent and everything good about the old world that good people wanted to protect. For Lee, she was that light in the darkness. The game would give you these text notifications indicating that Clementine had noticed or would remember an action that was committed by you as Lee. And this would actually affect the player, and it would make you think about the decisions that you were making because you continually had a little girl always watching you. The relationship provided the emotional backbone for the first season. I loved this first season of The Walking Dead and the second. I hadn't had a chance to play the third season or the final season yet, but I always liked how these games managed to create side characters that you really cared about, and at times the games like to kill them on you and really hit you in the gut with a lot of emotion. The Walking Dead games were really dark, but they also provided those small moments of safety and light that felt both good and earned. Telltale definitely achieved something special with the first season as it turned the studio into a household name among gamers. Since their games are released in an episodic format, it's kind of like watching a TV show in which you kind of get an episode every few months. While I do like that they're able to hit you with these enticing cliffhangers, at the same time I do think that the episode releases should have been a lot shorter. But even with that, I did like the idea of having a story-driven experience that presents itself like a TV show. But The Walking Dead wasn't the only property they tackled that I played. Into the Borderlands has to be one of the funniest games I have ever played. I enjoy the mainline Borderlands games as the gameplay is fun and very loot driven, with crazy characters paired with crazy humor. This Telltale series fully embraces the comedy of the series and uses it very well. Borderlands also surprised me with some very awesome plot twists along with a hilarious little robot that you meet midway through the season. Her naive responses are delivered so well that you can't help but laugh at how she responds to people.
Everybody up and at 'em! Come on, Slowpoke! Time's all wasted!
Gordis? He is,
Oh, he's got, some stomach issues.
Oh, I can see that! Well, hope you feel better.
All the characters within Into the Borderlands would happily fit within the mainline series. And since Telltale is closing, I do hope that we do see these guys again in Borderlands 3. I was laughing the whole time I was playing this game, and I had many friends and family even watch me play it and enjoy it without having that background or knowledge of prior Borderlands games. Before I switch to my next game, I have to mention the finger gun shootout. This has to be one of the funniest things I've seen in a game, and here it is.
Whoa, wait! Don't shoot, please!
Got him now.
Bring it on! Batter up, bitches!
I love everything Batman, from the games to the animated series to the movies. Since I enjoyed the Telltale games, I was excited to see how they would tackle this character and his world. I played the first season, and while it does have its fans, I was really disappointed with the execution. The story starts off strong, but the quality quickly dips and it never recovers. I didn't care for how they went about Bruce's parents. I felt like they changed his backstory into something more cliched, especially in how they executed it. I wasn't a fan of the main villain, nor how they did Two-Face, but I really did enjoy the action sequences and any scenes involving Catwoman between Batman because they had good chemistry. When the second season was released, I wanted to see if the series had improved in any way, and to my surprise, I ended up enjoying the second season a lot more than the first. The second season takes a lot of time to setting up and then establishing the Joker before he actually becomes the Joker we know. We see him and Bruce together a lot. What is really interesting is about depending on all your choices, you could have a very different final episode than someone else. In most Telltale games, they do a really good job at giving you the illusion of choice by providing choices that seem like they were majorly affect the narrative while only providing a slight adjustment. In Batman Season 2, you can have an entirely different final episode. In one situation, you can turn the Joker into Vigilante Joker, and he essentially works with Batman to fight crime before he ends up breaking down. The other way is the Joker just turns into the Joker we know. I love this new version of the Joker. Season 2 started off rough, but got better after episode 1 and only continued to improve and then ended with a bang. The action sequences again were great to participate in, especially because Batman got really brutal in this game when he was using his batarangs as knives. I wanted to mention their Batman games as I thought this was a great opportunity of the developer trying something different with an established story, and while I didn't prefer the execution, I do want to acknowledge their improvement with the second season. The second season ended so strong that I was really interested to see where they would take it with a potential third. Now, how can I talk about Telltale without mentioning The Wolf Among Us? This is arguably one of their best games. The Wolf Among Us has an interesting premise and great execution as you're playing as the big bad wolf surrounded by fairy tales in a detective story. The action sequences are violent and the narrative is fun to participate in as you're going about the investigation. The story is full of dark humor and many interesting questions. Telltale announced that they were going to make a sequel in 2019, but sadly it doesn't look like that will be happening. But let's end this on a positive note. I love the great intro sequence for every episode into this game, and I'll share it again here. Before I conclude this video, I wanted to mention that I really enjoyed the Game of Thrones season that they did. The season had so many twists and turns that I didn't see many of them coming. There were several choices and story events that really made me feel like everything was on the line and full of tension, just like the show. A character you may think isn't important or even dead may surprise you later on, along with coming to a tough choice where you need to pick between two characters that you really like, but only one is going to survive. The season left off with a cliffhanger, and I definitely wanted more. I wanted to make this brief video to give my personal goodbye to the studio. I haven't played every game they made, especially a lot of their older works, but I wanted to acknowledge that when Telltale was at their best, they successfully implemented existing properties with their passion for storytelling within games. They gave players an excellent illusion of choice, and part of this was contributed to the characters and how we actually cared about them and the people in the narrative. I usually look forward to a Telltale experience as I love stories within my video games, and I always knew that if I booted up one of their games, I was bound to have a good time. While not without their flaws, they delivered many memorable experiences. Telltale, you will be remembered, and I hope we see and hear from the developers again in the future. Thanks for watching.